Álvaro Arbeloa is the man who took Xabi Alonso's job. In January, Real Madrid sacked Xabi Alonso. Arbeloa was installed on the same day. 6 months on though, they're both in West London. They're actually long-term friends as well, but have never come up against each other as managers. Alonso is now at Chelsea, Arbeloa is now at Fulham, and the first game in the Premier League season is at Craven Cottage. A West London derby is big enough stakes, but this just adds to it. Arbeloa has brought a pressing system with a name and a striker that Real Madrid still part own. So we're going to get into how Fulham will play, how they actually end up beating Chelsea, but that'll be throughout the video. Here's my 11, and every pick is an answer to something that Fulham will do. So the shape in possession should be a 3-4-2-1 as we saw it in the final few pre-season games under Alonso. We will have to see though, he could surprise us all. First will be the keeper, then the back three, then the wing backs and midfield. Each is paired with something that Fulham can cause us problems with, and the bench last who can come on and have an impact. One of the four I'm starting probably shouldn't be fit enough to, but you just have to have him on the pitch if you can. And then we'll be getting onto the outer possession shape, as that is just as important. So Rob Sanchez is in goal, of course. He is our number one, and against this lot, he's going to be key in picking the right passes from the back. Against a two-man press, which will probably be, he's the spare man if we're building with the three at the back. And if he can't play short, if there is no option, we know that Rob Sanchez can hit a good long ball up to our striker, up to our wing backs. Because Arbeloa's press has a specific name. They call it Salta, which just means jump. It's brought over from his Spanish coaching. Now, high press isn't anything new, but they have specific triggers. They don't just chase blindly. They wait for a heavy touch or a pass into a congested area, and then they all pounce at the same time to win the ball back high. So the way you beat that press isn't about being brave and taking risks. It's just about being clean. No poor touches. You can't afford to have them at this level anyway, but no mistakes can be made because they will punish. Levi Colwill on the left of the three, and he'll be the target. He's left-footed, he opens into the pitch, and they'll probably send someone specifically to force it backwards as he's so good at picking passes through the lines. He'll be having his head up looking at specific passes through gaps or switches of play because he is really great at passing, and Xabi Alonso said that he is going to be someone that's going to be in the long-term plans of Alonso and Chelsea, which we knew already. He called him one of the best centre-backs in the world when he is fit. Maxence Lacroix will be in the middle, and his job is more so for when we're defending. He's more the aggressive one, the leader and the athlete. He will step out and follow Fulham's Gonzalo García rather than dropping off him, which matters because Garcia will be their danger man. He scored 6 league goals in 952 minutes last season. From 11 starts, he was a sub most of the year, but if you saw him in the Club World Cup or just any point last season, he is a very lethal finisher. He can go the whole game without having many chances, and then out of nowhere he'll score. 6 goals from 22 shots. He is just a penalty box finisher. And yeah, one mistake and we'll be punished. I put Wesley Fofana on the right of the three. The second that Fulham break our first line perhaps, and they go vertical fast and through the middle, you need someone who can turn and run. Fofana's quick and strong. Hopefully we can see the very best of him on the ball again. And this is the exact same goalkeeper and back three that started against Real Sociedad. Because I think Xabi will have picked that lineup with this game in mind. See how they can play amongst each other. If it works, and yeah, it did work. We won 3-1 in the end. Now on to the wing backs, because one of the two has the hardest job on the pitch. Marco Palestra on the left. People will argue because he is right-footed. He's a right wing-back by trade last season, signed from Atalanta. But on loan, where he won Defender of the Season, he was playing right wing-back every single week. But he's very amphi-pedal, both-footed, and he's been playing there in pre-season. He played there again against Real Sociedad. I think Cheverria has been signed for this position as well, but I don't think he's quite up to speed just yet. He's only just joined the squad. Then on the right-hand side, I've gone with Pedro Neto. He's the release valve, really. He's got insane pace in behind the moment we win it back. Rob Sanchez can ping it to him. He is a bit of a dog. He will just sprint all day, up and down. You need the engines for the wing-back sort of roles. And he has been linked with a move away. I was putting off making this video in case something comes up of him potentially leaving. But he looks really sharp against Real Sociedad. He got an assist, I think, for the João Pedro. Or he put the cross in for the João Pedro header, Morgan Rogers goal. And I think right now he starts. Now he could leave. It's an interesting topic of conversation whether he's worth £100 million. I don't think he is. But do you need to sell him? No. And if he looks like he's going to be having a good impact for Xabi Alonso, why don't just keep him? Because I don't think you need to sell him. But that's conversation for the rest of the transfer window. Right now, first game of the season, he's still a Chelsea player, training with the first team, and I think he will start against Fulham. He'll be marked by a fullback who has a very high ceiling when it comes to going forward. He got 10 assists in the Premier League in the 24-25 season. That was Anthony Robinson. From left back, that's an insane return. He's very relentless at overlapping, and he has the pace to get back as well. So I think having Neto on that side, being able to make runs in behind a lot, coming back as well when we need to, but being high almost makes Robinson think twice about going forward so much and almost forces him to sit off. Otherwise Neto will cause irreversible damage just getting down that byline in behind. So from pre-season, what it seems like Arbeloa, he will be using Fulham's width coming particularly from their fullbacks. Castagne and Robinson are quite attacking fullbacks by trade anyway, and then the defensive midfielder, who could be Shea Charles, could be Berger on the day, sits deeper and then allows their wingers to come inside instead of hugging the touchline. So Oscar Bob or Palacios on the other side just are in the half spaces, like what we're doing with our 210s, which we'll get onto later. It allows for central overloads, but then the fullbacks can go really high. But do remember that thought, because the space behind them is the whole game later. So in our midfield pivot, of course, it's Moises Caicedo, and next to him is the conversation. I've gone with Reece James, the exact same thing we did against Real Sociedad, basically. Not at right back. He could play where Wes Fofana's playing, perhaps, but alongside Caicedo in front of the three in build-up, they'll sit narrow, very close to each other to avoid gaps appearing in midfield. It's deliberate. You have two bodies in one zone. Their press can't cover both without opening a hole beside them. Romeo Lavia is a very interesting alternative, and it's a genuine argument. He's probably better at receiving and turning under pressure than Reece James, which is exactly what could help us play through Fulham's high press. And he also had a full pre-season with Xabi Alonso. But I think if you can get Reece James on the pitch, you do it. We saw the quality he had against Real Sociedad, putting a beautiful cross in for João Pedro to head it into the back of the net. Lavia can't do that. He's also our club captain. I think first game this season, you play Reece James. And like I mentioned earlier, Shea Charles has just joined Fulham in a £27 million deal. Quite a lot of money for Fulham, who don't historically spend loads. He was brought in for one job, and that's just to screen the space that their fullbacks leave. They will have a high line. Fulham should be in a high line. Someone has to hold the middle. And he might not be quite ready to play yet, but Sander Berger could do this, like I said. But it tells you they know the weakness. It doesn't mean they fixed it, because the two players that exploit this are next. Cole Palmer and Morgan Rogers, both the 10s with their own half spaces side by side. I think both of them will have complete freedom. The thing with the press trigger from Fulham's point of view, the moment it fires, the midfield will go up, the first line of press will go up, the midfield will go up, the wide players will go up, and the defence has to step up into almost the halfway line. A high line obviously exposes gaps in behind for our wing back to potentially run into, our striker to run into, but it just opens up gaps, and that gap is exactly where Cole Palmer loves to operate, and Morgan Rogers is also a great footballer. I'm sure he can get the best out of himself in that position too. I noticed in pre-season a lot Cole Palmer. He's done this previously under Maresca, Pochettino. He would just drop in and receive the ball, but it felt like he was dropping in so often that Xabi's just told him, just get on the ball. I don't really care where you get the ball, just get the ball, because that just opens up the game. And then when you have other danger men like Morgan Rogers next to him, gaps opening up are just exactly what those two will want to exploit. Rogers is great at driving with the ball, we know as well. And then if they crowd the midfield area so these two don't get as much time on the ball, which they probably should be doing, then we've got the width. We've got Palestra and Neto out wide with extreme pace. They are two very fast footballers. But then if they're covering off those options, then yeah, the whole game is on if those two can turn. I'm talking about Palmer and Rogers here. They can get the ball, receive the ball, turn. So we've got options whatever Real Madrid do. And the criticism that followed Arbeloa from Castilla, which is the Real Madrid academy and the Real Madrid first team, is that he's been called stubborn in the past. He's got a strong plan A, but not quite a plan B, which sort of reminds me of Enzo Maresca a bit. So whichever option that's working, I'm not sure how much Arbeloa will go and change it. João Pedro up front, of course, his job will be to pin the centre-back, stop them from stepping into the space where Palmer and Rogers want the ball. One of their centre-backs will need to be on João Pedro, and then the other one will be floating about. If he drops and they follow, the gaps appear, Rogers can go in behind, Palmer can find the pass. We know how great João Pedro is at linking up, and then obviously we know how good of a finisher he is if a cross comes in from the flanks from Palestra or Neto, who can cross the ball very nicely. And then as well, he can turn, make runs in behind. If they do play the high line, then we've got some great midfielders, Moises Caicedo, Reece James, Palmer. They can all weight a ball perfectly in behind to whoever's making the run. If we end up losing the ball and it turns into the defensive situation. The 3-4-2-1 sort of becomes a flat back 4-4-2, nicely structured to press with. Lestra drops into a left back sort of role. Neto goes to right midfield, Rodgers sits as left midfielder, and then Palmer steps up next to João Pedro as the first line of the press. They'll go at Leno, their goalkeeper, and the centre-backs as well. Because Fulham will probably try and play out the back. Marco Silva wasn't known as a particularly possession manager at Fulham. He didn't really have the players always to do that. But I think Arbeloa will really be trying to bring Spanish positional football to the Premier League with Fulham, and who knows if it will work or not. It's either going to work very well, or I think they might be in a relegation scrap by the end of the season. We'll have to see. But yeah, again, in pre-season, we were pressing in a clear 4-4-2 quite often. It's just a simple out possession shape that protects itself 2 banks of 4. It's quite common out of possession if you watch the Premier League ever. So now the players coming off the bench, because I think they will have a big part to play, especially first game this season. Not everyone's fully got up to speed. So Morgan Rodgers, Neto, Reece James and Lacroix, who I've all got in the starting lineup, all went deep into the World Cup. Came back from their holidays later than everyone else. So they are less match sharp. I'd still start all 4 because, I mean, they had a game last week. I'm sure there were a lot of fitness stuff going on in the previous week. And no one looked particularly unfit in that Real Sociedad friendly. But playing 60 minutes is realistic, and it depends on the score is at that point. But if James tires, then Lavia's the obvious one to come in there. If their back line is tired from the fullbacks going up and down, bringing on an Esteval or maybe a Kendo, although I didn't see him in first team training today. Other players that will just absolutely exploit those sort of positions. They play with such energy, especially against a high line if they are still playing a high line at that point in the game. You've got Hato that could come on for a bit more, help him build up. Maybe Colwell shifts into the middle and then Hato goes to left centre back. Watch out for Emmanuel Omega. I think having his height, and he's actually very, very fast, so him making runs in behind as well, you could need to look out for and could really change the game. But one more thing before the full 11's on the screen. It's about possession. It could look different to what you'd expect maybe. Under Marco Silva, Fulham were happy to give the opposition, especially a possessional team. Like last season, I haven't looked at the numbers, but Fulham v Chelsea, I'm pretty sure Chelsea would have had at least 60% possession. Okay, I have just looked. Actually, they beat us at Craven Cottage. We beat them at Stamford Bridge. And the winning team both times had about 55% possession. Although we did dominate on expected goals and got a red card, I think that was the first game that Callum McFarlane took charge of. Cucurella got a red card on the 22nd minute. Liam Delap actually scored, but that was a completely different game. The personnel in this game I'm looking at is insane. The shape, Fulham went for a 3 at the back, and there's 2 new managers in the dugout, so it is going to be a completely different game, to be honest. But what I wanted to say is that I don't think Arbeloa will be happy to just sit back and drop the team back. He'll want the ball and press to get it back, especially high at the pitch. And when we had Maresca in charge, that Callum McFarlane game, obviously Maresca had gone by that point, there was a lot of sideways passes that were doing absolutely nothing other than boring with spectators and maybe playing mind games against the opposition, but I don't know about that. Whatever you made of the Maresca era, this isn't that. I think under Alonso we'll see a lot more effective possession of the football rather than passing for the sake of it. So I expect maybe a 50-50 split on possession. That's not us struggling against a historically lower team. It's 2 teams that just want the ball, want to press high as well, which will be really fascinating to see how it play out, especially as it's a Monday night football game, especially West London derby, rivalry between managers, ex-teammates at Liverpool, both the 2 recent Real Madrid managers. I'm looking forward to it a lot. So here it is, the full lineup in its entirety. Sanchez in goal, Colwell, Lacroix and Fofana as the back 3. This is in possession, of course. Palestra as the sort of left wing back. Neto as the right wing back. They're not quite wing backs, they're more just players hugging the touchline and high as well. And Caicedo and James as the narrow midfield dual pivot. Palmer and Rodgers as the 2 attacking number 10s and João Pedro up front. Like I said, if Palmer and Rodgers can turn in the space that the high press will leave, I think we win comfortably. And if they can't, then it's going to be tight because García only needs a chance or 2 to score. And that's the version where Arbeloa gets his night. However, I do think Chelsea's quality will shine through, and the options that we have over our West London rivals will carry us to a nice win in Alonso's first Premier League game. I can see João Pedro getting his goal-scoring campaign started early, and the width from Neto and Palestra causing problems for Fulham's attacking fullbacks who will want to get forwards, but will not know what to do with such attacking opposition fullbacks. I can envision maybe a foul on Neto in the box. And then it will be interesting to see who takes a penalty, as historically, obviously it'd be Cole Palmer. But in the press conference today, Xabi Alonso was asked who his penalty taker would be, and he kind of refused to answer. He said he didn't know who last season's penalty takers were, which maybe you don't know the whole order, but surely you knew it was Cole Palmer. Why wouldn't you just say it's Cole Palmer? I think Rodgers can take pens, João Pedro can. The other talking point is how much of a role Enzo Fernandez will be given if he's coming off the bench. Maybe it will be in the midfield too, or the attacking tens. I still don't think he's. If we're winning, maybe he'll come on as one of the attacking tens. If we're losing, then he'll come on as one of the midfield pivots. But I want to see how many minutes he'll get. It will really tell how much he is in Alonso's plans, or how much they've told him to play him for. Tell me your 11 in the comments. Who have I got wrong here? Who would you start in midfield, especially? The Lavia James conversation is interesting. Should Enzo start? Do you really leave out Esteval and players like that? Drop it in the comments, let me know. If you enjoyed this video though, I think you'll enjoy this one too. Thank you very much for watching this one, however. I'll see you with this video right here. But goodbye.